Are you still making movies, or are you
Yes.
just
Yeah.
cool?
I mean, the festival's kind of taken over a
Hmm.
lot of my life the last couple, but yeah, I hope to be, the goal right now is to be in some level of production of the next one, of our next feature by this time next year. So I'm working on script ideas right now, and hopefully by the end of the festival next year, we can go right into the next feature.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, it's a. I'm pretty sure you know most of what I do is more around distribution and
Mm-hmm.
finance and sales and all of that.
Yeah.
But I had the pleasure of being on set for Tim Travers and the Time Traveler's Paradox this last December in
Okay.
2022, and it did kind of light a fire on me to get
Mm-hmm.
back on sets, even though I am a producer. And you kind of don't want executive producers on set.
Yeah.
Generally, if we're there, it's a bad thing, unless we're either meeting a celebrity or there for a really big explosion or guiding a studio
Bring the
visit.
insurance.
Yeah, basically, it's anything like that. It's the we kind of have to deal with that. And it's more just on the studio visit thing, it's I would if it was a scene where one of the actors had modesty concerns, I would not be there, nor would any studio exec. It's
Mhm.
just a if it's my set, I at all, I
Yeah.
wouldn't let it. But it's more just a as everybody here knows, being on set is like being on the factory floor. It can be dangerous if you don't actually pay attention and know what you're doing.
Oh,
And
100%.
that's why you need somebody who's got a little bit more of their water legs
Mhm.
out there helping with the studio visits.
Yes.
Because yeah. Um but anyway, I uh actually met that filmmaker through the Seattle Film Summit
Mhm.
as a part of I think he was one of my initial one-on-ones that I did for that summit, where basically I would have a 15-minute meeting with a single filmmaker about drumming up new business for me and just providing value for them, basically. So
Mhm.
it was a very good model that I think is a faster is a much more attainable level for smaller festivals to get started at, as
Yeah.
opposed to the big speed dating thing.
Mhm.
Because those I was able to get 10 or 12 meetings out of, and I got a
Nice.
couple clients, and that's basically why somebody like me goes, is to find find new talent, find new
Yeah.
movies, find new everything. And it's not just filmmakers who want to sell their completed film. The distributors also need
Mhm.
completed films
Oh,
to
yeah.
run their business. So it can be very mutually beneficial.
Yes.
Yeah. Um,
I don't have a comment for that. I just agree. It's like, that's it.
it's yes. I just realized I'd been talking for a minute, so I
It's
tried
fine.
to stop. But the so you make so you said there's genre pictures at this film fest.
Mhm.
Are there is it just horror? Or are there action movies, or what
Um,
sorts of genres are we talking about?
they've generally had a horror film. They've generally had a horror shorts block. They've always called the Scared for Your Life block.
Hmm.
As I said before, that's now its own festival as well. So we still have the Scared for Your Life block.
Sorry.
It's all right. Give you a minute.
Yeah, thank you. Okay.
Okay. So we've always had the horror block, the Scared for Your Life block, which, as I said before, moved into its own horror film festival as well. So we still have that Scared for Your Life block, and we do that late night Fridays. Generally, we try to preface it with a horror feature as well. So we'll have two horror blocks, a feature followed by the Scared for Your Life shorts block. Last year, we started a retrofuturism block on Wednesday night, which is the Thursday night, which is sci-fi.
Hmm.
This year, we happened to get enough good entries where we created an action block, and we call that Kicking Ass Taking Names. Um, And we also created the Midnight Madness block for Saturday night, midnight, which is all just off the wall, unclassifiable, strange, weird, quirky, you don't know what you're going to get type, like weirdo mixtape blocks. And
You
that
should just
has
call it the weirdo mixtape
that's
block.
it. It's a weirdo mixed.
Yeah.
That's the best way to describe it. It's a weirdo mixtape of just some of the most unique films that you ever see, and it's become one of our most attended blocks because on top of the mystery of what you're going to get at it, we also I create a custom Midnight Madness pin, so every attendee gets their own gets a pin that for that year. And we also have a Midnight Madness award, which the filmmakers have to be in attendance for in order to be eligible to win in that block. And it's a handmade award that I do every year, so it's something different. The first year I made like a little movie marquee. Last year I did a stack of videotapes, and this year I made an award out of a couple of 16 millimeter reels.
Nice.
And it looked like a giant lollipop. But that's another one of those things where I feel like the film festival, especially if you want to stand out as a festival and attract new and interesting and good and really prolific filmmakers, you want to give them a reason to want to be there. And I think that that's one of those types of blocks that encourages interesting films and encourages interesting filmmakers. And the fact that you have to be there to win an award, it really pushes people. You got to be there, and filmmakers show up. I can't tell you how many times over the years, and I'm sure you know this ad nauseum, that you go to a film festival and you sit in a short block of shorts of 10, 15, and then at the end of the block, there's two filmmakers standing on stage to speak for, and you just watched 90 minutes of movies and there's only 10 minutes of which spoken for, and as an audience, you kind of like, oh, okay. You just, all right, great. These filmmakers are here. Let me hear from them. I think that's something else filmmakers need to get through their head. Be at the festival, because no matter how good your film is, features aside, no matter how good your film is as a short film, if you are not there to represent your film, chances are the audience forgot about your film the minute they walked out the door.
That's
if
accurate.
You are there, yeah, if you are there to represent it and answer questions and speak to people, regular audience members, the average film goer, they want to meet the filmmaker. They want to go home and say, hey, you're not going to believe who I met. Because at some point in 1991, there is someone who's got a story of when they met Kevin Smith randomly at some screening, and he's been telling that story for 35 years.
Oh yeah, no, that's a thing. Like, completely agree. And that's, by the way, that also goes for people behind the camera or even behind the back office. I still tell stories about how I met Claudia Christian, who was the female lead in Babylon 5.
Okay.
I still tell that story.
Yeah.
Personally, because it's a really good story that I won't tell on here. But it's a but it is a really good story, and also it helps that I'm a giant nerd. And yeah. So did you lead your action block off with a feature, or was it all shorts on that one?
It's all shorts. Yeah.
Okay.
It was all short films. We had a Western feature this year,
okay,
which was really unique, because you don't see those very often.
They're coming back.
They are. We get 3 different Westerns submitted this year, 1 feature and 2 shorts. Very random that happened, because in the 3 years I've been watching, there haven't been any Westerns. Finally there was. From what I understand, there's a studio that opened up somewhere around the New York, Pennsylvania border area that has a Western set.
Oh,
it opened up sometime in the last year or two. Or rather, maybe they expanded a Western set in the last year or two. I'm not entirely sure. But this is what I found out from another, from, I believe, actually my wife found out from, I believe, from Greg Lamberson, who runs Buffalo Dreams. he said that there's a Western set that opened up around that Pennsylvania, New York border area. He's like, and it's just got an influx of people who are like, because it's just so different. It's so interesting and unique look for your film. And I think that might be partially where at least the Northeastern influx of Westerns, because to have Westerns come from New York filmmakers is very weird. That's very strange.
I grew up in Colorado.
Okay.
So I can say Westerns just make all the sense in the world to me,
Yep.
but I see the disconnect for New York and Pennsylvania filmmakers. Really, it would make more sense to make a sequel to Witness. It's all about the Amish country for those who don't watch old Harrison Ford movies. But yeah, so I don't know. Also, Amish country's weird, man.
Yeah,
it's
Amish country. They like it that way. It keeps the riffraff out.
Yes, it's true. All right. So, what's some advice you would give to filmmakers who want to get the most out of their next film festival attendance?
Well, first things first, attend. Be there. I make a habit of, I'm going to say 90% of my submissions are only to festivals that I plan on attending. There's that other 10%. It's like, well, I have to send to Telluride. I have to send to, and it's like, I don't plan on flying to Colorado for it, but if I get in, I'm freaking going to, because, you have to be there. But, that's number one. Number two, research the festivals you're going to send to. And this is a huge ask, because it takes a lot of work to research, especially if you have a feature. I assume you're going to send to anywhere between 20 and 50 festivals. Assumption. Your average, unless you have like a really exceptional film, your average film is going to go between 30 and 50% acceptance rate. So if you send to 50 festivals, you'll be lucky to get into 25. And that's normal. That
would be a lot still.
Yeah, exactly. That's normal. And that's again, like you said, that's a lot. That's on the high end of 25 festivals for a feature. So plan for 10. Plan for 10 if you send to 50. That, again, high end. I'm being generous.
Yeah, I think 10 is a more realistic expectation.
Yeah.
But I hear what you're saying in terms of plan for only submit to the ones you can attend, which that makes sense.
Yeah. Put your festival run must be part of your budget. Plan it when you're making the film. Here's what I know a lot of filmmakers. Okay, wait. Let me step back a second. First off, when it comes to researching your festival, know what you're sending to. You need to know what they want. You need to know what types of films they normally play. Now, that doesn't mean that just because they gave an award to a found footage film last year that they're definitely going to want a found footage film this year. That doesn't mean that either. No, not at all. In fact, they might not want another big found footage film this year, simply because they gave the award to it last year. Well, because festivals realize that the more documentaries you play, the more documentaries you get submitted. The more horror films you play, the more you get submitted, because there are filmmakers out there doing that research. So you need to be one of them doing that research as well. You need to know what the festival wants and what they're looking for. So more than the style of the film, you need to know the genre, the feel that they're looking for. You have a film festival like Genre Blast. They're looking for unique. They want unique, different films, and it comes in the title, Genre Blast. Yeah. So if you have a film that literally combines two different genres in a very unique way, they're probably the festival for you. But if you've made a rom-com, probably not. If you've made a rom-com with aliens, hey, maybe.
That's or a rom-com with zombies. I mean,
exactly. Yeah. They might be looking for that. But so research your festivals and put that money for festivals in your budget before you even begin shooting. No, you're going to put a couple $100, $1,000 or so aside at the end, and that's just for your submissions. I can't tell you how many filmmakers I know personally or have met over the years that it's like, well, it's really expensive to submit to festivals. It's really hard. Like, you're right. Yes, it is expensive, but did you not consider this when you spent 5 years making this movie and you didn't spend 5 minutes thinking of how you're going to get it out into the world?
That's a common problem.
Yes, it's a
It's a
huge.
I can't tell you how many filmmakers at this point, it's by proxy, thankfully, who say, "Oh yeah, my distribution strategy, get into Sundance." That's
Never. Nope.
so many different reasons you're wrong.
Nope.
The
I don't think I think I submitted to Sundance once, and I have never since. And I've made dozens of shorts and, again, 3 features. I've submitted once, and it's like, I'm not wasting my money on it anymore.
I mean,
I'm just
unfortunately,
not.
it's just kind of where you are. You have, in order to stand a solid chance at any of the at least top 5, maybe even top 10 film
Mhm.
festivals, you kind of have to have an inside game.
Yes,
Whereas you need to know somebody who can bring your film to the
absolutely.
attention of a programmer.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're just not getting in. Full
Yeah.
stop.
Most of
It,
those
yeah,
festivals, those films, by the time they get there, most of them are already spoken for. They've
yeah,
already got some level of, at the very least, some level of deal being worked out for distribution. Your
yeah.
feature playing at Sundance, if you don't have 5 offers on your table by the time you're there, you're doing something wrong.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, there are a shockingly high number of undistributed feature films that come out of even your Sundances that
Mm,
are just like they'll premiere at Sundance,
yep.
they won't get a deal, and then and then nobody in the general public will ever hear of them. This is
Which
common.
which then makes me wonder how they got in the first place. Like, that means that there was a programmer who saw it and said, I just love this film and I feel that it deserves a platform, you know? And you want to be one of those films. You really do.
Yeah.
That they just love it. But the fact is, not everybody is one of those filmmakers. 99.9% of us are not those filmmakers that are going to send the 1 in 10,000 films a year that Sundance gets submitted. You have to be the 5 of that 10,000 that these programmers say this is unique.
Yeah, and and not only that, you also have to hit the mandate right on for
Yep.
that year, because each year Sundance has a certain number of themes that they want to
Yes.
emphasize, and you have to just hit the lucky stroke of
Mhm.
being in that subset.
Yeah.
And it's not a solid strategy for you to get distribution. It's just not.
No.
Sorry.
I think something that does, um another a piece of advice is, go to festivals whether you're playing or not. Sundance, something, let's say you want to break into Sundance, go volunteer, work Sundance, get
Hmm.
to know the other programmers, know the organizers, the festival directors, work the festival,
Hmm.
and you'll learn what they're looking for by being there. I think that's something that a lot of filmmakers overlook, is just volunteer at the festivals. Are always looking for volunteers.
Yeah.
Go just spend a couple of days. Like, we have volunteers every year, and they just help us check in the filmmakers. They don't do anything crazy, but they get to spend the week of, whichever days they're available, just meeting the filmmakers. They help us check them in. When we have we have an interview corner, and we had somebody, I don't have it sitting here, but they just hold the clipboard. What's your name? What's your film? And the literal file number so that when I edit the interview together, I don't have to search for their name. Just here, there's the file number. This is who's in it. And that's what a volunteer does, or they check in a filmmaker. They give them their filmmaker badge. Here's your program. These are very simple things that they do. But as a volunteer, you get to meet every single filmmaker who walks in the door. You get to meet every director, every producer, every actor. You are there, and you are someone that they are looking to speak to because you have information.
You
You're
have
there.
information that
Yeah,
they need.
exactly.
Primarily, where is the bathroom?
Yes. See,
Yes.
even so, you are someone that they need to speak to. So again, that's another way of breaking that ice.
Mhm.
of getting you in conversation with someone you want to meet, someone you want to talk to, someone you might work with in the future. So that's another thing. If there's a festival that's local to you, doesn't matter how small or how big it is, volunteer, work the festival, pick a year and go. And we had, for our second feature, I got a lot of um rejections. I got a lot of rejections for that one.
Yeah,
I
it
think
happens. It's like,
yeah,
yeah.
I think we submitted to 50 or 60 festivals. I think we got into 5 or 6, you know?
Yeah.
Um, but then I spent the next year and a half attending most of the festivals that we didn't get into, because I wanted to see, what are they looking for? What were we doing wrong? What could we have improved on? Essentially, what are they looking for? There was one short film that we did fairly well with. I think we had like a 70% acceptance rate,
Yeah.
but this was in 2019. It had already been almost 10 years at this, again, targeting the festivals. I know what this one's looking for. So 75% acceptance rate out of 45 festivals I sent to, we got into like 30 or 35 of them
I mean,
with
but
one
then
short.
you're also a known entity is another thing there, that because you've been submitting for these 10 years and because you've probably submitted to the same one multiple
Mhm.
times, probably
They
not every
recognize.
year,
No,
but
yes, they do start to recognize you.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's
they
a
remember you and they see you get better.
yeah, they do. And it's a very similar thing to grant writing, really. When you're
Mhm.
applying, when you start writing grants, you're going to get 95% declines, but if you keep applying, that win rate's going to inch up
Yeah.
year over year. And it's kind of the same basic principle here.
Mhm.
Like, do you know the name Jim Cummings?
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He got his start, his bigger start was around South by Southwest and
Mhm.
giving a speech at South by Southwest and the reason he got on that stage is he was championed by Ted Hope. Now
Okay.
I actually booked him to give an early version of that talk, for the Institute for International Film Finance,
Mm.
which was like the third event I ever organized in my life, and just happened to meet this guy and we got there. But if Jim didn't have the South by Southwest speaking gig, he wouldn't have eventually gotten Thunder Road
Mhm.
into Sundance and then the feature version a year
Yeah.
later. It just kind of is becoming a known entity in these spaces, is the
Yeah.
big thing there. And it's something that's, I guess this is where one reason where filmmakers complain about, and just people in general complain about, nepotism.
Mhm.
And there's decent reason to complain about nepotism,
Yeah.
but the just people wanting to pay it forward to people that they've known for a while, I have a little bit of a harder time being annoyed about that, personally.
Yeah. And
So,
that's it.
yeah.
Well, because like you said, he did the speaking gig. That's why I say volunteer, get them to know
Yeah,
you. Because
entirely.
another part of it is that it's a film festival. There is still some level of a business to this. We still have to be able to afford to rent this theater.
Yeah,
Okay. And while we may not have a sold out screening every single screening, sometimes we may not even close to it. We still have to afford this. So one of those considerations is, plain and simple, is this a local filmmaker that we know is going to show up and sell 5 tickets? If we have 2 films that are neck and neck, these are very close, you know, but this one lives 10 minutes away and they were at the festival last year supporting a friend of theirs. This one lives in Australia.
and
It's
won't be
probably going to
coming.
go to the
Yeah,
local film, huh? And then,
yeah,
yeah, they may fly in, but we don't know that. We
yeah.
do
And
not
even if they
know that.
do fly in, they probably don't have much of a local network.
Quite possible, unless again it's a name that you know.
Yeah,
But yeah, we're on the business end of it, we have to go with the safer bet that the filmmaker who lives one town over and was here last year is going to come this year. And since he was here last year for his friend's film, they're going to come this year with their friend again. That's a
yeah,
great. At least we have that. So it's exactly that. It's there's the reason for the nepotism is just that. it's a safer bet because this is still a business in some form. We all do this because we love it. I love being able to give a platform to filmmakers who wouldn't be able to get it otherwise. You know, I like being able to have that ability to show off a film that may disappear in 2 or 3 years, but at least we get to say, hey, we played that this year. We screened that. And this guy or girl, you know, 10 years from now becomes that Kevin Smith, you know, or that Ava DuVernay, or, you know, and they become huge. And we played one of their films when they had just begun.
Oh
That
yeah,
was
no, everybody's looking for those early stories.
mhm.
That is at least part of why we keep making and distributing and
Yep.
showcasing films.
Mhm.
It's just why we're in the game. If we
Yeah.
wanted to make more money, we'd sell insurance, which don't do.
There's easier ways of getting rich than
Yes.
the film industry.
Um